Johnson wanted to hit a home run.
Oh, that's exactly.
Between these two?
I saw your friend.
Okay.
We're live, guys.
Okay, thank you. After you do the approval of the minutes, we got to say anytime here, we just wanted to say that any citizen comments for anything related
After,
to,
before.
yeah, anything related to the agenda, and then of course, here, full terms report citizens comments. And there'll be anybody here who's not taking comments over. Mary Ann.
Thank you.
Christian, doing okay?
Yeah, it's fine.
No cover.
No.
Oh my God.
Hi, Marianne.
Needless to say, it's not a phone.
Absolutely.
And
Wonderful.
I'm waiting on people like that because it's all the things that already know that we're through. I'm like, oh, never mind. But my text was just back out after that lady on the solid comments interview date.
I don't know. You know, once we have everything, it just goes to school.
Okay.
So getting there is really up the hill.
It's uphill. You're right about that.
Yeah.
Oh, you were gonna ask me something else?
I saw your note on the link.
Oh, on the appraisal?
We'll talk afterwards.
Is it 3 o'clock, you can start? Oh,
Yeah.
we're live,
We're live.
yeah,
I'll wait 1 second.
okay. Did you hear, you guys see in the news, about the California School Board, all of them resigned because they were doing a virtual meeting and they didn't realize that they were live when they were making all those comments?
You know, if they had
They
been,
all had
if they had been
resigned.
in the privacy of their own homes, that would have been inappropriate. Those would have been inappropriate statements, though. They were just stupid to even say what they did.
Oh, God, yeah. Mm-hmm.
One lesson I learned early in my business career, never put anything in an email that you don't expect to see on the front page of the New York Times.
Yeah, or in their case,
Or-
they were, and then the person like who would be like our Stephanie, she came on, she's like, you guys, you are live. You are live streaming. They're like, are you serious?
We're gonna do roll, okay?
Okay.
I'm just waiting for Mary Ann.
I was telling my mom that, I said, we sometimes I remind our counsel here, say, you are live.
Well, our council wouldn't talk like that.
No, of course not. Never.
We are live.
I think we're gonna get started because Mary Ann is doing something there.
Oh, she is.
Yeah, she's just right there, but I don't know what she's doing. I think she's trying to get some candy or something. Oh, yeah.
They did.
That's all right.
Okay, it's 3 o'clock. I'm going to call the meeting, the Ways and Means Committee meeting for February 22nd to order. First, if I may ask you, let's rise and pledge allegiance to our flag. I
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
I'd like to ask our town clerk to take roll, please.
Ms. Burkett.
Here.
Mayor Laveriola.
Here.
Ms. Conley.
Here.
Ms. Moffett.
Here.
Dr. Parker. Ms. Tillerson. Ms. Schubert.
Thank you very much. Our first item of business is the approval of 2 different meetings, both Zoom meetings. The first one on January 26th. Is there a motion to approve this?
So moved.
A second?
Second?
Any discussions, corrections? Seeing none? All those in favor of approving these minutes, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, those minutes pass. The next one is a meeting with one agenda item held on the 2nd of February. Is there a motion to accept those minutes?
I so move.
Thank you, Mary Ann. Second?
Sorry
Second.
about that.
Sorry.
Second.
Thank you, Mr. Seeing none, all those in favor of accepting those minutes, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Seeing none, those meetings pass. I'd like to ask now for citizens' comments on the items which are on the agenda for today. Yes.
I just wanted to tell you that we're only here to answer questions on our section of the agenda, nothing else. And if it's okay with you, as soon as that's over with and you don't have any questions, we'll leave, okay?
Absolutely. Makes sense. Thank you.
Get out of here.
All right, seeing other than Butch's, no citizens' comments, we have no old business on the agenda. So let's move to new business, and I'll ask our town manager to discuss each of the items.
Mr. Chair, members of Ways and Means Committee, we have before you a renewal, a request to renew contract that we have with Island Beach Services. They have serviced Kiawah Island for well over 30 years. We have been very pleased and continue to be pleased with their level of service. I think our residents, I don't know if that's me, so I'll step back. I hear feed. Our residents appear to be also pleased with the service, as well as our guests. What you have before you is, this is to be able to execute the option to extend their current contract for 2 years. This will take them through March 31st of 2023. This will request is asking you all to make a recommendation to Town Council to approve their contract extension that we have with them. So we entered into this contract, we renewed the contract in 2018, and we're now asking to execute that option for the 2-year extension that would take us through 2023. Any questions? And as Butch, or anyone who's here?
First, let me ask for a motion to approve, and then we'll discuss it.
I so moved.
Thank you, Marianne. Second.
Second.
Thank you, John. Okay, open for discussion. Butch, you're here. Any thoughts? You're doing a good job?
I don't break job.
Trevor?
The only thing I can discuss is the fact that, we're growing like crazy. People are staying longer. I don't know if it's because we're doing anything like that here, like, our goal is to exceed what they expect of us. That's what our goal is. But, there's not gonna be any place to put umbrellas pretty soon is what I'm getting. It's just unbelievable how it's going out there, particularly this year. But, we're real satisfied. We love working with the town. Every mayor, every council member has been so marvelous to us. We're blessed.
We're blessed to have a big beach, too.
Yeah, we are blessed to have a big beach. I don't have anything else unless we got a question or two.
Questions?
No, thank you.
Everything's still the same. Operation hours still the same. Time limits still the same. Months still the same. Nothing's changed.
Thank you. Mr. Chair, I have a question, or ask Colin to step in. Two things. Because we have new council members, even though only one of them is here, could you take a moment and describe the ordinance that talks about the procurement process, that, and how we go about evaluating services, like which is number one, and number two, the fact that in typical contracts, we have not only the contract, but we also provide for extension. So that's really what Butch is asking for. This, why we're not going through a bidding process. I think it may be helpful. Maybe everybody knows this, but I thought it would be helpful just to kind of refresh.
Sure. Well, I think you answered the second question. So the first question in regards to our procurement process. So typically anything, we have a town ordinance that states that depending on the cost, depending on the service, the town would go through a procurement process. Our procurement process can be as simple as at least getting 3 bid proposals, to as extensive as actually putting together what's called a request for proposal and submitting that out, and then waiting for proposals to come back to us. And so what we typically do, and what you'll see is, for instance, Carolina Waste, Island Beach Services, Beach Patrol, our audit service. After so many years of having the contracts, what we should and typically do is we would then go out and bid, really just make sure that we are receiving competitive pricing. And also as a municipality, as a government agency, to be fair, to give others the opportunity that may do similar work, the opportunity to bid on our project. And we also have to be good stewards of the of our taxpayers, even though it may be through fees because we don't have property tax, that we are getting the best deal that we possibly can. So for these particular services that Butch and Trevor offer, there's not a lot of organizations or other entities around that offer the same service. We have bidded this out before, but again, in this particular case, we made, at the time, I believe this happened 3 years ago or maybe 5 years ago, we did receive three bid proposals, and still what was presented and what we felt was a better service was with Island Beach Services. So we did go through the process of bidding this out, as we do with our trash service and other services that we have on the island. So that's our procurement process. What we do, and I think this is very healthy and it's fine, is we have a great relationship with whomever we have the contract with. We typically then built in the ability to allow them to do an extension if council, and in this case, the franchisee, still have a great relationship, or if we need to revisit the contract, do any type of amendments, we can do those, of course, anytime. But when we're doing contract extensions, these are the opportunities where we can make some modifications here and there. In this case, we do not. But that's really kind of the town's procurement process, and we do follow that closely. And so with this request to Ways and Means, I feel very comfortable that we bid this out 3 years ago, and or I think 3 years ago, and they won the proposal. So now we're just asking to activate the extension, the 2-year
I just thought
extension.
it would be helpful just how this works and why. I mean, obviously they do a great job. It wasn't so much them, it was the fact that it was first on the agenda. I thought it was important to go over that. So.
Mayor, if I could add, just to refresh you, contract is basically, we just reached $1 million a couple of years ago. But before that, the contract was like $300,000. Well, now that we've reached $1 million, I wrote in the contract years ago, $1 million for 30%. So now that we've reached that $1 million, we now into the 30%. So the town got, how much, Stephanie? $333,000 this year from beach services, which I think is a good portion of it.
Thank you.
So basically, we're in the 30% now,
Right.
okay?
Thank you for checking
Yeah.
Good.
Okay, we have a motion to recommend to council the approval of Island Beach Services extension. If there's no other comments, I'll ask for a vote. All those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Say none. The motion passes unanimously. Thank you.
We're great.
Thank you. Bye, guys.
Thank you.
I'm Sammy on the beach.
I'm John.
Trevor Snow.
Yes, sir.
I believe your grandson was going to work with us this past summer.
Maybe someday, yeah.
Was that not right?
Yes, it was.
I'm your daughter, probably.
Yes.
And then the pandemic got crazy, and yeah. So I hope to hear from you.
Thank you, Chip.
Yes. Thank you, guys.
Thank you.
Thank you. Bye.
Here you go.
You go out that door, the side door.
On to the
We have before us another franchise agreement contract. This is with Kiawah Island Golf Resort. It is what we call the Night Heron Park Beach franchise. This is really in front of the sanctuary up until you get to the windswept high rise. This is similar. They do beach umbrellas, chairs, kayak rentals, etc. Very similar to Island Beach Services, but basically their cut of the beach or their cut of the pie is in the area that I just described, which is on a map in your packet. This agreement we've had with the golf resort for about 20 years. This contract is due to expire next month, and so we're asking to enter into a 5-year franchise agreement starting April 1 of this year and ending March 31st, 2026. And this would be enter into a new contract. So this is not exercising the option for extension. This is just something we've been doing for the last 20 years. And this is not something that we've bid out really competitively. This is just the resort offering a service for their guests in front of the sanctuary to windswept. They lease out beach equipment.
Is there a motion to recommend this to council?
Also move.
You second. Any other discussion? All those in favor of recommending this to council, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Seeing none, the motion passes unanimously. 70.
Yes, the next item on the agenda is consideration to enter into a contract with Kimberly Horn. They're a consultant who did work originally in 2015 for Beachwalker Drive. We went and did a procurement process, and we were able to, and Kimberly Horn obviously won that award. And in 2015, what we did, this issue dates back to 2015. We got Kimberly Horn in 2018. The issue was with regards to the traffic on Beachwalker Drive. Inlet Cove residents, and I believe this probably predates me, but the issue and concern about the traffic going to the Beachwalker County Park. And so we then contracted with Kimberly Horn in 2018 to do a traffic study to help us see what other options or alternatives that we should look at with regards to trying to ease some of the traffic on Beachwalker Drive. So what came out of that, of course, is to add the right turn lane, which also serves as a stacking lane, and beyond that, we have deputies during our peak time that make sure the cars don't stack beyond that right turn lane. In addition, we worked with Charleston County Parks and Recreation, and when this was installed, I guess this is going maybe on the 3rd year now. I don't know if they made these changes at other beaches that they manage, but they put in a reservation system. And that system has been worked along with the right turn lane, and that system has been great. So on our busy days, and it appears now that it goes beyond Easter and Labor Day, but really between that time, our peak, once a visitor arrives at the beach, if the parking is full, then they give their name and telephone number to a county park representative. They put that information into their reservation system, and then they basically send that person off, and typically that person may go to Freshfield, mingle around until it's time. The system then alerts them that a parking space is available, and if they're still interested, they need to reply that they're still interested, and they have so much time to come back to claim that space. So that has helped, but we have received additional requests concerned with, I'm not sure if it's speeding more so than pedestrian safety with regards to crossing the road to go to the beach, or just riding their bikes along the pathway there. So when Kimberly Horn worked with us a second time, this is with the Dune site development and timbers, and so we have brought Kimberly Horn on to do a traffic study for that area, and and the recommendation was the speed tables, some additional signage, et cetera. So this would be the third project. I'd like to say kind of closing the loop with regards to Beach Walker Drive in that section. And this would be for them to do a pedestrian safety study. In addition, to look at the intersection there of Beach Walker and the front gate. We don't believe there's enough real estate. There's been suggestions of us doing a roundabout. We don't think there's enough real estate to do a roundabout there. But maybe at Beach Walker there, in an intersection where it intersects, maybe there's enough right-of-way to do a right turn lane. I'm not sure what their recommendation would be, but we feel like it's important just not to go in and just put pedestrian speed tables, because we don't know where they should go, honestly. We don't know the impact of, do you put one or you put 2 or 3? So staff is recommending that we enter into a contract with Kimberly Horn for $16,500. You can see the split. Because this will impact, obviously, going to the beach, we're able to use 80% restricted funds and 20% general funds, but that we enter into a contract with them to do this study for us. And then out of this study, we envision then that there would be additional cost related to possibly adding speed tables. But we're not sure of all the costs that may come out of it, but this would be a start to even signage or cutting back vegetation. So we just need professionals to help us walk through this process.
Great, thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Is there a motion to recommend to council this contract with Counsel Warren?
So moved.
Any other discussion? Questions?
I have a couple of points. On the task 4 on this, which is geometric improvements to the Beach Walker intersection there at the gate, if we kind of decide that there's not enough real estate to put a traffic circle there, and so, other alternatives might be a turn lane or whatever the other alternatives are, it would seem to me that if we do that now, knowing that in not the too distant future, there's gonna be more construction and more traffic going down there, I'm worried that we're gonna get in a position where we're gonna do this traffic study again, because of the new construction down there.
Well, let me just tell you, when you have consultants,
And so I'm just curious, as if maybe we should not do task 4 now.
well, let me just answer before you finish that thought. With consultants, and part of their project is that they look at future development. So when they're looking at that intersection, what they would take into consideration is development of parcel 13, the development of the vacant lot next to the garage in Riverview. So they will look into all of those so that we wouldn't have to, so whatever recommendation they would make would be based on future and current development.
I don't see where it says that in this proposed contract.
Oh, that's where when we worked with them before, that's what the consultants would do. That's how we did with timber, when we did timbers.
If we're gonna sign a contract with them to do this, shouldn't we ask that it, or state that it includes?
We can do that. It's just part of their task, but it's not a problem to just include that.
I would suggest that we at least directly have them look at that, particularly because of the $4,300 associated with task 4.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
That's a good point.
Yeah, because when they're doing traffic studies, they don't say current development in here, so we can say current and future development to spell it out, because we don't.
Certainly future development that we know about.
Yeah.
Because we know it's coming.
Right,
So-
yeah. Yep, so we can,
And if part of this is based on some input that we've had from residents in the cottages down there on the right-hand side,
mm-hmm,
then if they can be assured that we're looking at this future development too, then they're gonna feel better about the results that come out.
yeah.
And they might say, you need a speed table, but you don't need it for 2 more years.
That's good. That's a good suggestion. Any other comments?
Stephanie?
Yes.
Kind of similar to item B that we're gonna get into. The land around the island, or I guess, is there any? Is it just, you know how John gave us that one little slide that has, where our dumpsters are and things like that, and it shows who owns the adjacent lands and things like that? Is there any land terms of getting back to John's point, in terms of the future need, some area greater than what we have currently out there?
I'm not sure your question is in regards
So
to.
specifically, if you were gonna put a turn lane at that intersection, who owns the land that the turn lane would be on?
It would be our right of way. That's why I said, when I presented, I said they will look at if we have enough right of way there.
Oh,
We would,
I'm sorry,
yeah.
I didn't say it.
Yeah,
That's
so on
what
both
I'm sorry.
sides, we still have right of way. So depending on how much is there and if they add a lane, we may have to realign in order to pick up the additional.
Roundabout?
We can look at the roundabout, but we would end up having to acquire and buy,
Now we're getting to where I was trying.
Yeah.
Who owns?
because we don't have enough of
Who
the,
owns all the adjacent lands, and if we're gonna solve this thing, you know, how can we, at least while we're bringing in a consultant and paying them, have them look at, you know, kind of maybe an ideal solution?
Mhm.
And if we decide, well, we can't really do the ideal solution for a variety of reasons. These
Right.
are all, we don't wanna buy land, can't afford to buy, whatever those reasons are.
Sure.
But at least we're starting from a point of what an optimum selection of country.
yes, yeah, they can do that. They can provide as many scenarios as their contract costs will cover.
Yeah, I understand.
So if we, so they're able, and we have looked at that, but I don't think anything's memorialized in terms of that roundabout. But I know when they looked at Beachwalker Drive, because when we're adding the right turn lane, we looked at future land use and current land use and traffic, because it was traffic counts. We looked at that section.
That's all.
So they should have a lot of this information already. That's kind of the benefit of going with Kimberly Horn, because they've already done so much of the work for us, dating 4 years ago, and so they probably just have to update some of the data points. Uh-huh.
All right, any other questions?
Oh, what's the time, maybe it's in there, did I see that? What's the time frame? When should we get the study back?
As soon as I get this sign off on them, it was a fairly short turnaround. I don't remember off the top of my head what the turnaround time is. But it was fairly quick turnaround.
Okay, I'm sorry, I'll take a look at this time. You can see the document.
Oh, thank you, I didn't know you had put it in there. Thank you.
That's okay, Steph.
Okay, yeah, I was looking to see, I'll get a, confirmed timeline and everything for them, but when we thought about doing this, we had approached them with parcel 13 when the developers came and wanted to amend parcel 13. I had put together an MOU that didn't move forward, and it was a fairly tight timeline for them to do the work, so it's not very long at all.
Okay.
So, Mayor, it says that they will provide the services as expeditiously as practicable, and meet a mutually agreed upon schedule, so basically when we want to do it.
Okay.
Yeah, because it was tight for the other one when we initially talked with them a couple months ago about this.
Okay, any other discussion? I think I have a motion on the floor.
Yes.
Thank you. All those in favor of the Kimberly Horn contract?
Aye.
Any opposed? Seeing none, the motion passes. Last item under old business is the recommendation to council for a contract with LS3P for the design phase only of the potential recycling center.
I was going to enlarge it.
You can.
Oh,
there you go.
yeah, I can enlarge it. I just need to, there we go. Sorry for the short notice, but I have handed out a revised contract with LS3P for services for wet trash recycling center. And what's on the screen is our current location. So I put together a GIS map, and as you can see on the map, I don't know which one is I've never used this before. Is it, the pointer is the one that says I?
Yes.
Okay.
I don't know if I have to put it on you can't do it on the TVs.
Oh, okay, so then anyways.
That's all right. It's there.
Yep. So what this, what we were asking LS3P to look at is during the council retreat in January, if you recall, our public works manager has showed some photos of the Kessler Court, Sorrel location where our current trash and recycling service is located. So this box right here is one of our trash boxes. I believe it's the recycle one, and then we have the two compactors right next to it. This is Kiko's right-of-way. This property, all of this property belongs to Kiowa Utility, so this is one of their many ponds, and then this KRA utility area. So we had a number of boxes spewed everywhere. We know that this has been a problem. This has been a problem for at least 5 years or longer, as I stated in my memo. At the time, Rusty Lamio was working with the town. We tried to do everything. We have a separate contract with the gentleman who actually comes and cleans up this site for us. Sweet older man, probably about 80 years old now. He brings a couple of family members and we pay them to clean this up. What we've done is we've tried to increase the capacity. So we then, probably a couple years ago now, we then moved out. We used to have just large container dumpsters. We replaced those with 2 compactors, and then we increased the recycle bin. Even with that improvement of service, we still have problems here, and partly because, you know, I think it's off the beaten path. If someone puts, you know, trash here, then all of a sudden other people start piling in. Also, you know, when it is full, you can't really, especially recycle bin, because you have to come to the side. People may not feel comfortable or safe coming to the side. We've installed additional security cameras. We have added larger signs. We give out fines. We have tried to do everything to try to prevent people from illegally dumping here. You know, I don't know, this is just a hunch that the reason why we have issues there is that we have a lot of illegal dumping, probably that goes on, of course. We have contractors that probably dump there, and they're not supposed to. They're supposed to take their trash with them, their debris with them, but we do see some. During our busy time of the year, with regards to our short-term rentals, we have Saturday changeover. A lot of this happens on the weekends. We think those that are cleaning the homes or cottages, villas, the cleaning crew is just taking and dumping their trash here. And they're supposed to take the trash with them as well. But we don't staff this. We don't have a way to close this off. So right now, this is just basically open to anyone, anytime. But again, we catch someone leaving debris around. We're able sometimes to get their contact information, and we've written tickets and we've gone to court. So the last time this happened, I worked with Brian and I looked at this site and I said, the town is growing and I believe we have outgrown this site. We do not have a formal lease agreement. This whole time, everyone thought that our trash dumpsters was on Kiko's right-of-way. We just have the pad on the right-of-way. Our trash containers are actually on Kiowa Utilities property. I've also sent you, and I put in for your information as part of our development agreement with KRA, and I said Kiowa Island Golf Resort, I meant Kiowa Real Estate Associate, Kiowa Partners. We have an agreement that you guys see that states that the town should not own or lease any property behind the gate. If we did purchase or lease anything behind the gate and it jeopardized the gate security, the town will then cease operations or sell any property. So my recommendation of moving this outside the gate is that if we were to look at this site, we would either have to go to Kiowa Utility to see about purchasing or leasing enough land to be able to continue operations here, or go to Kika and try to do something, linear here. If for some reason someone challenges it and said that, and basically say they want to come use our facility because it's a public facility, Kika cannot technically stop them because we're using public funds behind the gate. And if we then have to cease operation there, we could have spent almost $500,000 on town facility that we could, potentially lose our investment. So if we were to leave it here, it may just try to do something very simple improvement, or any other place on the island. So that is why in the proposal, we would like to work with LS3P to look at an alternate site. As of right now, there could be some other alternate sites to even include them investigating this location, see what we can do for a limited amount of money, but make it so that it's more secure. But also, we're asking them to look at the available land next to our garage. The garage, as I understand from the mayor, because I wasn't here necessarily for the initial design stage, was left so that if we had to expand the bays, we could. At this time, we don't foresee having to expand our garage bays. And so we looked at that site, which is just to the north of the garage, between the garage and the pond, as a potential location for a new, for wet trash, a new recycling center that we would be able to invest. We would be able to add appropriate lighting, security cameras, design it so that it flows well. If we wanted to put a hours of operation on it, we will be able to do more and be able to manage it, I think, better than this location here. But that's what we're asking LS3P to do. And the proposal that you have, while it may show all the costs, right now we're just asking them to look at the programming and conceptual design, which is actually revised down to $10,000. So this would be a not to exceed $10,000. Once they come back with a conceptual design, they're able to put some real numbers to that, and then they will come to you all for your consideration. When I asked them about how much it would cost to do something here, they gave me an estimate of about $500,000 to do that work. Is there any questions?
Let me make sure I understand what
Yeah.
you just said. So for them to build an appropriate disposal site here,
Mm-hmm.
they think it's about $500,000.
They estimated, yes, sir.
And
So
so-
until it's actually bidded out, it could be a little bit more, a little bit
Yeah.
less. Correct.
So basically, if they go through this design process,
Mm-hmm.
and our notion is that it might be over here,
Mm-hmm.
then basically it would be to build that facility at that location would be $500,000.
Well, potentially, yes, if we're able to acquire enough land, because that would just be for the facility, that wouldn't be the.
We couldn't acquire, the town can't acquire land and.
That's what I'm saying. So if we wanted to go at this location, we would either have to lease or buy, and I would not recommend that. The
Yeah,
town
I
could
agree
do
with
it.
that.
The town could do it, but if we ever jeopardize the
But then
gate,
we're putting all that money at risk.
that's correct, and that's what I would recommend that we not do.
I got you.
Yeah.
Okay, I want to make sure I
Yeah.
understood that correctly.
Yeah, yes, yes,
I have
ma'am.
a problem, that site is way too small, and I've been there many times when the garbage has been dumped. Chairs, baby carrier, everything has been dumped there. But in addition to that, there's no traffic flow ability. So cars come in and park, and then they back up and move out. So even if they could improve this spot, which I don't think is possible, you'd still have the traffic problem that you have now.
Yeah, I mean, if we, for some reason if we decide that we did want to risk the investment, which we don't want to, that would probably require us purchasing, and we don't even know if the utility would sell it to us or lease it to us, and we definitely wouldn't want to make that large investment with the short-term lease, or maybe a 99-year lease. But that would have to do, acquire a lot, and then that would be encroaching into their pond, so that we could create that traffic flow. So that
But all of that's going to put our infrastructure costs at risk.
That's correct, sir.
And that would be a really bad decision. on our part.
Right.
That's correct. I
Yeah.
think it would be a very bad decision.
This, I mean, in the long run, you gotta look at this site as a far more acceptable site.
So let me ask you a question. So your comments about the inside the gate, is it technically inside the gate? So for example, if you got them to design a state-of-the-art trash facility,
Mhm.
and we said, well, we wanna do that, we wanna talk to Kika and do that somewhere at Kika's town building property over there somewhere.
Mhm.
We could do that.
We could do that because it's not technically
It's not
behind the
technically
gate.
Behind the gate.
That's correct.
So the first step of this is for them to design, what does this facility look like?
Mhm.
And then additionally, we'd have to say, okay, now where will we put that? We're thinking maybe over here.
Yeah, and it may be that when they go in to do the design, if they sort of know the location, they can design for that location, because say for instance, if we wanted to go next to the station on Beachwalker Drive, which we would then have to acquire the property from the partners, that site may be configured just slightly different, so they may have to juggle things around just a little bit.
Okay.
Other comments, questions?
Just some comments. This is the type of project that would come up before any municipal group. We have to be right. We have to come up with a fix here that's correct, because this thing, whatever the solution that we ultimately come up with, it's not gonna change. It's gonna be there for, like the
That's right.
location of this building,
Right.
it's gonna be there for a long, long time, so we have to be right. So I think the investment in LS3P to really work with the waste company to really find out what the temporary waste disposal situation is well said, number one. Stephanie was correct in terms of getting the language from the development agreement itself. But we will do that. We can get an opinion or at least some comments from Joe. But I think it's even, the town just can't own anything behind the gate.
Yeah, no, I get
It just
that.
puts everything in compromise in terms of the use of public and private funds. We looked at that exhaustively for the location of this building. So I mean, it's even more than just the development agreement itself, but we'll do that. So number two. So, and then this has helped because I think you can begin to see it's the easement from the association and the utility company. What we would have to do would be getting into something in terms of leasing, possibly leasing land and building something that we would lease. I think we'd have to give that really, really serious thought in terms of putting a substantial amount of town's assets into an environment where we don't.
I agree. For
So
us to
I-
build something inside the gate is not a big plan.
So we want to do the right thing, and I think we just have to do our due diligence very, very carefully so that, at the end of the day, my guess is that the concern from the community may be fine, you cleaned it up, but it just isn't as convenient as this is. Which is clearly no question. I mean, but
So then the question becomes, is there a more convenient spot in here that's still outside of the gate that
Oh,
would
of
make it
course.
feasible? And I think we have to be willing to say we're gonna at least look at that.
Well, we crossed those bridges, town hall isn't as close as it used to be. We go to town hall to pick up this and that. Now we have to drive all the way out there. Well, years have passed. This is where town hall is, it's the solution. So I think time would deal with the changes there, the reluctance or resistance to changes that people would have. But nonetheless, it's still gonna be a change. So anyway, I just think support this. I think this is the absolute way to go about this, very slowly, very cautiously, very carefully, very thoughtfully. And we'll see, we talk about this side here, but we really gotta see what between the architect and the waste people, waste management people say about this site. See what, we'll have to see. So anyway, it's a long-winded, I support it.
We're all in favor of moving forward, I think.
Yeah.
Is there a motion
So
to
moved.
approve LS3B's design phase only, $10,000 for design?
Second.
Moved by the mayor, seconded will see this again. Next month, we're going to go through the expense side. So all makes sense, John? Step by step. Rhoda, our treasurer, thank you for being here. Those are tiny little numbers.
Yeah, those are tiny because this is a lot of years. So I want to start our budget discussion with just showing you some history, because the history we use to develop trends. And I intentionally left it at 15 years. It is a long history, but I want to show you to the years that recession years, and how we recover from the recession. And I'm not gonna go into details in this. I just, one general observation is that you'll see probably a growing trend in general. There are some exceptions, some big changes, and I think one is worth to mention. It's in building permits. Before the town did the building permits on their own, we were doing it with Charleston County was doing the permits, and then after that we had an outside company that was doing the permits, so we were only remitted the net of it. Right now, pretty much what you're seeing now is the total revenue, but then we were getting minus building department cost.
What
So,
year was the change?
Sir?
What year was the change?
2013, when this is like making this noise. In 2013, we started doing it on our own. So that's why you see that big jump in the building permits. The other ones, there is some big jumps, but this, especially with the accommodation taxes, it's mostly the improvement in compliance with the businesses and to pay accommodation taxes. But in general, like I mentioned, the trend, it is a slow growing trend through all the revenue sources. If no more questions, so and like I mentioned, the history is it's a good tool to develop trends that we using now for this year, current year budget or prior year budgets. But this current year, 2021, was a very challenging year. When we first started working on the budget last year, it was pretty much the same time. So we started to get information about pandemic. We really didn't know where to foresee as far as the financial impacts the pandemic will have on the island. So as we have to approve the budget, this is pretty much by the state constitution that the municipality has to have a budget. The town council approved the balanced budget in June with number of very conservative assumptions. Those assumptions actually were consulted with some big players on the island, and they agreed that their financial, forecasts are pretty much the same. So just to repeat myself, because we already talked about it, our assumption was that the first quarter, meaning July through September, is going to be at 50% what it was in prior year. And the second quarter is going to be 75%. And third and fourth at 100%. Also, when the budget was adopted, there was a suggestion that we'll do the review of the budget, a mid-year review, because with those very conservative revenues assumptions for revenues, the budget was pretty much bare bone. We had to put a lot of items on the table and pretty much no projects. So we were gonna review the revenues and see if there is, any possibility to go back to the items that were tabled. it wasn't really a mid-year review because the prior council want to be part of that, so we did this through November. Through November, the numbers looked much better, so we increased that budget to for about $460,000. Since then, I closely review our monthly revenues, and as reported to you last month, we'll see and projecting that we're going to be over that amended amount, and we pretty much exceed by 1.7 our budget. So this is for this year. With all this, the next year is still not as easy as we would like. There is still a lot of uncertainties, and because this year is a different year too. We don't want to take this year as a base or as a comparison. We don't want to look at last year, because last year for a whole month we had island closed pretty much for tourists and businesses. So our base right now is 2019, or pre-pandemic year. So in overall, we are proposing to the total budget at I'm sorry, I can't see on this computer. The total budget for 2022 at 9.3 million. This is pretty much 2%, or about 185,000 less than the current year projection, or 7% on 652,000 less than 2011 year. And I apologize, the sheet that you got over the weekend, this sheet, there was an error on my part. I sent it to Petra before I saved it. The other revenues for the budgeted year, you had 50,000, but it should be 160. So we replaced those pages for you. But in general, we are pretty much projecting that the building permits revenue will decrease for about 9%, or 88,000, when we compare it to 2019. And mostly those comparisons that I'll talk about are to 2019. The decrease in building permits revenue is pretty much related to a slowdown in the new construction. The building permits are based, the building permit fee is based on the cost of the project. So of course, when you look at the new construction, it's much more money than renovations. We also projecting a one-time revenue from a special project. It's a parcel 13. We budgeting that the first phase will start this fiscal year, and the second phase will be permitted next year. So we basing this projection on pretty much on the cost of timbers construction, of timbers development, and the cost of their permits was about $200,000.
So it's split 50/50.
Between, yes.
Special projects are the things that aren't very long.
Just one time, yes. The business license revenue is budgeted to increase about 160,000, or 6%, when we compare to 2019. And one thing this year was a lot of efforts was made by the town staff to get businesses in compliance. A lot of rentals. We created a new position, short-term clerk. Compliance clerk. Yes. So she, for a lot of her time, she just looks through the website, the internet, and finds rentals that are not licensed. So we have improved the compliance, and you can see those in numbers of licenses issued. So we'll continue with that trend. The franchise fees, So one of them was the contract that was signed today. It's a beach services contract with the Berkeley Electric, AT&T, and Bell South. Those were contracts at pretty much at 3%, except for Butch's contract, for the gross revenue what those companies made on the island. I'm projecting them at no change, as there's really not a lot of changes. I mean, there is some new maybe houses that come up on the island that people may spend a little more electricity, but those are really very small numbers. All the tourism-related taxes, which is local accommodation, state accommodation, local option, we're projecting a 2% increase, which is pretty much consistent to the trends, historical trends. And we feel that with all the publicity the island gets, we're still attracting a lot of people. And we had this study done by the HRNA about the rentals. And when the rental cap was placed, we still have about 150 rentals as of December 31st. Licenses available, so we still feel that there will be more rentals on the island. Therefore, there is a little, small increase in those taxes. The county accommodation tax is a little different, and as we mentioned before, the county actually informed us that they will not pay us this year anything until they review their financial statements. They, like every other business or were struggling, or they didn't know how they will do financially. So we're not going to know if we're going to get any money for this year until late July, August. However, based on the conversations I have with them, they do know that they actually performing better than what's in the budget. They pretty much on the same, maybe not as good as we are. So we just projecting a 200 for next year, which we normally get about a little over 400 in a good year or pre-pandemic year. The hospitality tax, I'm projecting with no changes, only because even though things seem to getting better, but the hospitality tax is collected at the restaurants, is on prepared meals, and until those restrictions of 50% of occupancy are lifted, we still may see not a lot of increase in that tax, but so I left it at no change to compare to 2019. The solid waste, it's really not a revenue. It's more than it's more of an offset to the cost that we pay Carolina Waste. But we, compared to 2019, you see that big increase. But again, that was an effort, the town's staff effort to collect those uncollectibles, and also. Last year, we made it required for the rental businesses, we will not issue them a license until they have confirmed or until they pay the bill. So that's why there was a big increase, but percentage-wise. The interest revenue, that's a trouble one. But with the current interest rate market, we can't really do much, and our revenues, our investment don't really make a lot of money in there. We do, with Mr. Chairman, we will look at maybe some other options, but still it's probably not going to change a lot. Other revenues are pretty much a number of small revenues. That there is no change in those revenues. I just listed them on the sheet so you know what they are, but this is aid to subdivisions. This is a help pretty much from the state that every municipality receives. Planning fees, court fines, beverage permits, victims assistance, and miscellaneous revenue. So, with all this, I just want to bring you to, I was trying to go a little farther and get a 5-year projections. And again, those are mostly based on the trends, historical trends. So, you know, one item that maybe it's worth to mention is the special project. So we actually, we may have some more special projects on the island. We did know about the hotel. We actually budgeted the hotel before, a couple years ago, we budgeted 2 years before PGA, before this year, but that didn't happen. So right now we were told at that time that they will, you know, review and look at that maybe in 2024. So I put that 500,000 in the 2024, but this is just an estimate. And so, but if there is any other special projects that will come on the island, we will see the revenue in that line item. Any questions? And this is, you know, this is just the revenue. So next month we'll add the expenditure discussion, and I think what's important, and it's good to see where we at actually looking at the fund balances. But until we have the expenditures, we can't look at them. But we'll do next month. Yeah, next month.
So your thought process, it sounds like in summary, was go back to 19 as a normal year.
Yes.
Take into consideration what we've learned, what we know, and be reasonably conservative about what this next year might be, since it starts halfway through this calendar year. There's still some uncertainty as we don't
Exactly.
know much. We think the vaccine is working, but we got to get it in people's arms. There's a bunch of things up in the air.
Sure.
So I think it is a reasonable time to be conservative, and this is just a look based on not looking at expenses. Now we got to look at expenses and see how they balance each other out and see where we are. So we got more work to do. But this is a starting point. And if you want to dig under some of these things between now and even next month, the road is built.
Oh yeah, absolutely. But I felt that the 2019 was a good. I mean, it was consistent, and comparing to the prior year. So the last year, that's where it started. The numbers, and prior to that, our budget was pretty good to actuals, pretty accurate. This year is, well, luckily it's a great year because it's more, you know, way more than we expecting, but still things are not normal. You know, we feel there's probably more people on the island that working remotely on, you know, having school in, doing school online, so they can actually afford being here and, you know, escape maybe big cities. So I definitely don't want to take this year as a base or as a comparison to next year. Yes, sir.
What is the sharp reduction in interest? It's not just a rate issue, is it? What is the difference?
Rate. It's a rate issue. Well, plus we also we also paid off that building, so that's another $1.6 million or almost $2 million that is less than was through the whole year, but it's rate.
But it's revenue, the paying off of the building.
Yes, but we took it from the reserve, so we had 20 million. Right now we have 19 or 18 million. So the investment
You didn't earn the
decrease.
interest on the reserve.
Yes, sir. Yeah.
That makes
Well,
sense.
I think you've done a good job.
Yeah.
I think this is a good budget. I think it's a good starting point. This is difficult because of all of these, you know, there's like 5 pots. It's difficult to make an assessment of any leading indicator, you know, because of so many variables. So I think it's conservative going back to bumper year of sales in 2020, Bruce is probably as close to a leading, or his group is probably as close to a leading indicator as any. Do we have more homes in the hopper for 21 than he did a year ago or 2 years ago? That would be something that would be interesting to know if he has any feedback. You know, now we're into the first quarter of this year.
Yeah.
You know, that would be one indicator in terms of possibly permits. Similarly, petitions to the ARB in terms of renovation and remodeling would give you some indication of license, you know, how many, if they
Yeah.
have. I mean, just if you wanted to quote validate some of this stuff, you know, you may want, they would be the leading indicator for
Sure.
work that's underway.
Well, we actually have the data too for, I did pull the numbers for the number of permits to new construction versus renovation. So we have some numbers, and I talked to Bruce about it too, but I'll ask him to maybe provide some, some better explanation. But he also did mention that a lot of people, or a lot of homeowners and contractors, they were on hold before the FEMA maps were coming up. So they want to get those projects done before, because it's unknown. So that kind of added to the both renovations and new construction. I wasn't overwhelmed with the number of new construction when I look at this year to date compared to last year. It wasn't like a huge jump of 50% or
Neither increase or decrease.
increase in the new.
You didn't see an increase?
No,
Did you see a decrease?
no.
Oh,
So I don't think there's a lot of changes as far as new construction versus renovations. But I will ask him maybe to provide some more insights to that.
well, especially if our baseline is gonna be 19, you know, if you could relate any of this to where we were the first quarter. of
Sure.
2020, I guess. Yeah.
Yeah, I'll ask.
You're just thinking about leading indicators.
Yeah,
And
that's,
the building permit's gotta be.
and then
Yeah.
work that's being proposed through the ARB, that would give us some indication that there's gonna continue to be a lot of contractors on the ground.
Yeah. Yes, I will ask him. So, and we'll follow up with you. One other item that I want to bring your attention to is that's small numbers, but the business license revenue. We talk about it that the state just passed the new ordinance, not just, but in September passed a new ordinance that requires all the municipalities to standardize the business license process. So, but not the fees. The fees are still up to the council. And the business license fees may be changed every odd year. And as we're gonna be adopting the new ordinance sometime this year, I thought it would be a good opportunity to look at those rates right now and see if there's any desire to change them. I know it's a big spreadsheet. I want to compare different municipalities, different jurisdictions. We usually compare ourselves to Seabrook, Valley Beach, or Hilton Head. I also added some more just to give you an idea. And as the number, there's a lot of numbers. On the bottom, I put an example of if you were to apply for a license and first example is 25,000 if and the business license is based on your gross revenues. So if your gross revenues would be 25,000 and second in class 7. And second example is if I see it's 80, okay, 50,000, I'm sorry, in class 8. And the on a schedule also the classes are pretty much the groups where the business is qualified, and it's based on the NAICS code that are published by IRS. so there is different classes, and also there is differences. If your business is located, your main office is located in a county, you're paying the rates that are on the schedule. But if you're outside the county, you doubled everything. You doubled the base rate and the other rates. So based on my comparison, you'll see that we are not really in the middle. However, we're not the highest or the lowest. And I think just the staff recommendation at the moment is not to change them, leave them as they are. There is always an option in the future to do that, even though our revenues perform really well and exceeded the budgets, but still there's a lot of businesses who actually do business on the island that are hurt. They were hurt during pandemic. They lost some people, or had to close for some time, or there is still some hesitation through the homeowners to have the housekeeper coming. So I would just recommend that we don't touch them, since again, we pretty much in a good place comparing to others. But
also, one of my views on this is, if you look at the two examples she's given, those are relatively small businesses for all purposes. We have, unlike Seabrook, a couple of very big businesses on the island. And you want to be very careful. They have very flat rates on Seabrook. If you look at it, they don't extend as their rates extend out, the rate itself does not go down. Our large businesses could not tolerate rates like that, if you even suggested it. So we have to be a little bit more sensitive about our scale than most.
sure.
We have lots of little businesses and a couple of huge businesses. We want to be sensitive.
And just to explain what's on the schedule, it's under the class, those numbers are the numbers of licenses issued last year, and the first number is in a county, the second number is out of county. So when you have like 119/22, that's how many business licenses we issue, just to give you an idea of that. But again, the new law does not regulate the fees. It's up to the council. So that's something that we like to get your feedback. And again, just going back to the building permits, the building permits is also based on the fees that are regulated or approved by the council. So if there's ever a need, we're not going to talk about now. I'm bringing the business license only because we're going to have to amend that ordinance, and it would be a good time to do it at the same time. But in the future, if let's say we will see that the building permits revenue really drops down with the build out of the island, there is an option to increase those revenues by increasing the permit fees. So any question on this? No?
Wasn't there a study done last year about, I remember this, contractors doing work on the island?
Yeah, the Ways and Means Committee, what we did was we looked at the permitting fees. And we did eliminate permitting fees for, like, we had fees if you're doing any work, I believe over $100, if it's like if you're painting or doing stuff like that, you have to come and get a permit. So we realized that by eliminating that, it was like 20,000. It was a very relatively small number. By making
for a number of work.
Easier to do work, we only saw a reduction maybe 20 or 40,000 in revenue.
I was going to say the criticism was not, as I recall, wasn't so much the fee.
No, it was just this. Yes.
Process.
Yes. It was just those miscellaneous fees, pretty much. They were miscellaneous permits. They were called, and right now, what we end up, we require only a permit for the work that needs inspection. So there is a good justification for that fee, but those fees were not reviewed, it was just the miscellaneous. Or carpet. So that's what I have. Okay.
Questions of our treasurer? Good start.
We want to have